A warm welcome to your Barbados Today Evening News Update for Tuesday, March 2. CXC has once again drawn condemnation from the group of concerned parents of Barbados after announcing plans to press ahead with this year's CAPE and CSEC exams in the traditional face-to-face format. Those tests will be held from June 14 to July 16, with results likely in September. But spokesperson for the group of concerned parents, Paula Anmore, told Barbados Today the move is baffling.
We cannot help as parents and students but feel rather discouraged, disheartened, dismayed, but still undefeated by the information that was shared during that press conference. We note with some concern there was no prior notification of students and parents, and we would think that we would be key stakeholders. We were not notified of that press conference in advance, and that lack of communication seems indicative and further evidence of the attitude of CXC, which seems to be more inwardly corporate focused and not outwardly focused on the best interests of the students.
She cautioned that the regional examining body seems doomed to repeat some of the mistakes of 2020 and possibly even more. She contends that students stand to be disadvantaged.
We note with concern that they're looking to have to revert to the original assessment methodology of exams. So rather than a reduction of the in-person exams that they did in 2020, they are going back to expanding to the traditional form of examination of paper 1 and paper 2, as well as the SBAs. And this is in the context of increased COVID outbreaks in several of the CARICOM territories, Barbados, Belize, and Jamaica, to name but a few. So that seems to us to risk exposing students, CXC's own staff as invigilators, potential staff at the schools, exposing them to the virus. And we do not understand why CXC seems to be the only place in the world that cannot come up with alternatives to exams in their assessments that are internationally recognized.
CXC announced Monday that deadlines for the school-based assessment component have been extended by 1 month, and students who wish to defer will be allowed to submit their assessments at a subsequent sit-in. We need help now. That's the message former LIAT employees today sent to the airline's shareholder governments. In a special protest video being circulated on social media, the workers who are due millions of dollars in severance and other outstanding payments signal enough is enough. The workers held placards, some saying severed LIAT workers are still owed and are suffering, once essential servants now seemingly discarded, and we need what is due to us urgently. We need help now. The Antigua and Barbuda court-approved administrator of the restructured LIAT, Cleveland Seaforth, has also made a plea for the shareholders to come to the rescue of the workers. In other news, Prime Minister Mia Mottley made a strong case for all countries to have access to COVID-19 vaccines to protect their citizens. While addressing the virtual opening of the Green Climate Fund, transformational climate financing for the Caribbean region event on Monday, Mottley warned the global community that the plight of small countries, whether it be climate change or the COVID-19 pandemic, deserves attention.
The same might be said of this pandemic, which is of course of no one's making, but which sees some of us less able to access the critical therapeutics and vaccines needed to protect our citizens because of the size of our countries and therefore the scope of our power. We confront the failure of the market daily with respect to this pandemic. Regrettably, we seem not to be able to acknowledge that until every country is safe, no country is safe. And that does not in any way diminish the efforts that each country must take to be safe, but it cannot replace the collective multilateral action to ensure that the global community is a beneficiary of vaccines across the world.
In Barbados, the number of vaccinations has surpassed 40,000, even as health authorities reported that the island now has a total of 3,140 confirmed COVID-19 cases. Under the National Vaccination Program, 2,455 people received the jab yesterday to reach a total of 41,125 persons. Meanwhile, 25 positive new cases from 715 tests were reported on Monday, as 109 people recovered and were discharged from isolation. There are 552 active cases of COVID-19. The 25 new cases comprise 14 women and 11 men. 10 of them were already at Harrison's Point, and the other 15 cases include 13 Barbadians and 1 non-national. Overall, 2,552 persons have recovered, while deaths remain at 36. Since February 2020, the Public Health Lab has completed 126,829 tests.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
On the regional front, Cuba is making progress as it makes its own COVID-19 vaccine. CNN's Patra Ottman has been speaking to some of the scientists working on the potential breakthrough.
Cuba hopes this is what the payoff looks like to a big gamble. While many other developing countries have competed with richer nations to import vaccines against the coronavirus, Cuba has been making its own vaccine. In March, 2 out of 4 potential vaccine candidates made in Cuba will begin their third and final trials. If the trials are successful, Cuba's would be the first vaccines developed in Latin America.
And the main objective of this clinical trial is to show the clinical efficacy of our vaccine candidate. After that, we could be in condition for start a massive immunization in Cuba or in some other countries of the world.
You believe that everybody in Cuba, the 11 million people who live here, could be vaccinated by the end of this year?
Yes.
Well, Cuba is only now just beginning to vaccinate people on a large scale as part of the third trial. Cuban scientists tell CNN they have already produced more than 300,000 doses of Sovereign 2, one of their vaccine candidates, and could eventually make millions more doses each month. The pandemic has all but destroyed Cuba's economy. Beaches that usually would be full of tourists are now empty. The vaccine, though, could help change Cuba's fortunes, as researchers here say they can produce enough to sell overseas and even market vaccination vacations, offering the vaccine to tourists as a way to restart the Cuban tourism industry.
On the international scene, gunmen have released girls who were kidnapped from a boarding school in the northwest Nigerian state of Zamfara. An armed gang had abducted 279 girls from the government girls' science secondary school last Friday.
Distraught but relieved, just some of the almost 300 girls who've been released by gunmen after they were kidnapped from their school in a remote village in Nigeria last week. After meeting them, the local governor said the girls were freed following negotiations.
It is 279 children, and all of them are here. They are healthy, and we are going to take them to some medical facilities so that to examine their status of their health.
It's the latest in a series of ordeals endured by school children in northern and central Nigeria. More than 600 students have been abducted in separate incidents since December. The government says large groups of armed men, known locally as bandits, are taking children hostage, then seeking money in exchange for their release. Authorities repeatedly deny paying any ransom, but analysts say this is unlikely. Boarding schools are common in northwestern Nigeria and are often found in rural areas where there's no security.
That the whole thing is under police investigation. It's after the investigation we'll be able to outline the details of how, when, procedure and circumstances that was employed in entering the school and in getting out of the school.
That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.